Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of the 240SX Drift build. Today we will be working on the power steering system as well as some other small things. Now, as opposed to spending a stupidly large amount of money to make the power steering system work, I have chosen to do a power steering delete. This is probably just going to be temporary until I get the car working how I want it, and then maybe I'll put the power steering back in. So I just removed the power steering pump as well as the bracket. It's right here. It's pretty simple, just some of the bolts were a pain to get to. So many of you out there may know the problem I'm running into right now just by looking at this image you see on the screen, which is a power steering pump off of a KA24DE for an S13. Problem with this pump is it's designed for a 240SX with the HICUS or HICUS, however you want to say it, but it was Nissan's four-wheel steering system. So of course it's a different pump, so it also has a line on the right side and a left side, and one of these would go to the rear end of the car and actuate the rear end. Of course the rear wheel is steered, so it needed a second output for the power steering fluid. Now you can't just plug up this hole and use it as a just front wheel steering pump, unfortunately. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove the AC compressor. So I just removed the AC compressor from the engine. So as you can see, there's now like nothing here because the power steering pump used to be there and the AC compressor used to be there. So we've freed up a lot of space, so it makes it look nicer, but it kind of actually looks bad because it's just like completely gross and disgusting. But it's still nice. And of course I had to remove the power steering belt. Problem with that is it also goes around the whatever this is called, the water pump pulley, which is slightly a problem because we actually are going to need a water pump. So what we've got to do is get a belt that can either fit around this and then the actual crank down there, or I can take the water pump pulley off of my single cam KA, stick it on here, and apparently with the right belt I can use that instead. So right now I'm just working on making the lines I'm going to need to do the temporary power steering delete. So what we got here is the finished product. This is probably going to be the nicest thing on the car. Like fittings, as you can see there are two ends. This one's going to go into one part of the steering rack, this one will go into the other one. And of course we got our T-fitting up here. And then up here we'll attach it to some sort of reservoir just to keep the extra power steering fluid so it will be able to move more easily, the steering rack, because we're not going to have power steering, of course. So this is what the internet said is the best way to do it without completely depowering the power steering rack. It looks pretty good. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Even if these seals aren't that tight, it doesn't matter because it's not like it's going to be holding any sort of significant pressure since there's actually no power steering. So we're going to go ahead and hook this up and then we should be pretty much done with the power steering. This is the OEM single cam power steering reservoir, and of course I have no use for it, so figured might as well use this as the reservoir because this will give it the steering rack, if it needs to spit out liquids, which it probably will since I'm going to be putting power steering fluid in there just because that's what lubricates it. Some people just put nothing on it and that can ruin it because there's no lubricant. It's probably not going to be too good for it. So that's pretty much what I've done. Of course we have our reservoir here, got our hose going down here, T-fitting right here, and then you can see two hoses going down to the steering rack. Now the best way to do this would be completely depower the rack, and there are some ways to do that, but that essentially would ruin the steering rack. So if I ever wanted to go back to power steering, I would have to buy a new steering rack, and I don't really want to do that. So this, for now, this is definitely what I want to go with. So I hooked up the OEM exhaust manifold and catalytic converter that I got with the dual cam motor. So that's pretty much nice and good. And then of course something came in the mail for me today. Of course I dinged this all up trying to get the exhaust in. I got this little piece here which you stick it into the port where the EGR system used to go. So I'm just gonna probably torque that down. It's actually a massive socket. I think it's like 24 millimeters or something. This piece right here. I don't know if I have that, so I might have to improvise. But that's pretty much that. Just gotta get new bolts for this. I don't have all of them, so move on from that. So normally I end up making about one video per month, and that usually is 20-25 minutes long, and it has all the stuff that I did over the course of the last month, which is usually about how long it takes for me to get 20 or 25 minutes of content. Now today I did something a little bit differently. This was a shorter video, and of course it had less stuff in it, but you guys can let me know if you would prefer to have less stuff in more videos, or more stuff in less videos. So of course let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.